the brave donkey of Belhaven. I, the runt of Millbrook Farm. In the quiet valley of Millbrook, where the hills rolled soft and green and the river sang over smooth stones, there lived a small gray donkey named Bramble. He was not the strongest animal on the farm, nor the fastest, nor the most clever. The great plow horses laughed at his short legs. The sheep bleated cruel jokes about his oversized ears. Even the farm cats, who cared for nothing much at all, found time to sneer at him from the hay bales. "You're built for carrying sacks of turnips and nothing more," the eldest plow horse, a stern gelding named Thane, told him one autumn morning. "Best you accept it, little one." Bramble said nothing. He had learned over his 3 short years of life that arguing with Thane was like arguing with a stone wall. The wall simply stood there unmoved while you wore yourself out. But at night, when the other animals slept and the barn creaked with the settling cold, Bramble would stand at his stall door and watch the stars pinwheel over the black shapes of the hills, and he would think, there must be more to a donkey than turnips. He did not know, standing there in the dark, that within the year he would be the only thing standing between the valley and disaster. Aye, the wolves come down from the mountain. The trouble began in the deep of winter, when the snow lay thick enough to swallow a lamb whole, and the wind screamed through the mountain passes like something alive and furious. It was said that a hard winter drove the wolves down from the high country, where the deer had grown scarce and the cold had grown teeth of its own. The first sign was small: a missing hen, a broken fence rail, tracks in the snow the size of a man's spread hand. The farmer, a weathered widower named Old Corwin, walked his fences with a lantern and a shotgun and found nothing but silence and starlight. Then came the night the wolves took Clover. Clover was the youngest lamb on the farm, a foolish, sweet-natured creature who had wandered from the flock chasing a will-o'-the-wisp of curiosity, as lambs do. The other sheep heard her bleating cut short in the dark beyond the fence line, and after that, no one heard anything at all. The farm animals gathered in the barn the next morning, subdued and frightened. Thane pawed the ground and declared that the fences must be mended, the gates barred, the flock kept close. It was good, sensible advice, and every animal nodded along to it. But sensible advice does not always account for wolves who have learned to smell fear through fences. Bramble listened from the corner of the barn, where he stood half in shadow, half forgotten, as he so often was. He noticed something none of the others had mentioned. The wolves had not come through the broken section of fence by the north pasture, where any predator might easily slip in. They had come through the gate that was supposed to be latched every evening, but which little Clover, it turned out, had left ajar in her hurry to chase butterflies that afternoon. It wasn't the fences that needed mending. It was vigilance. Aye, the watch. That night, while the sheep huddled in their pen and the chickens roosted high and nervous, Bramble did something no one expected of him. He did not go to his stall. Instead, he positioned himself at the gate to the north pasture, facing out into the dark, and he waited. The cold bit at his ears. The wind carried strange smells, pine and snow, and something else beneath it, something wild and hungry. Bramble's heart hammered so hard he was certain the wolves could hear it from the mountain. But he did not move, and he did not run, and when the first shape slunk out from between the birch trees at the edge of the pasture, its eyes catching the moonlight like 2 chips of amber glass, Bramble did not scream or bolt. He brayed. He brayed as he had never brayed before, a great, ragged, earth-shaking sound that tore out of his small chest and rolled across the valley like thunder rolling down from the peaks. It was not a beautiful sound. It was not meant to be. It was meant to wake every sleeping thing within a mile, and it did. Lanterns flared to life in the farmhouse windows. Old Corwin came stumbling out with his shotgun, boots half-laced, shouting into the dark. Thane and the other horses thundered to the pasture fence, hooves like war drums. The wolf, for it was only one, a lean gray scout sent ahead of its pack, froze in the sudden chaos of light and noise and thundering hooves, and then with a snarl of frustration melted back into the trees and was gone. No lamb was lost that night. No hen, no chick, not so much as a feather. IV. What the others said. In the days that followed, the farm buzzed with talk of the incident, and much of that talk, to Bramble's quiet embarrassment, was about him. I heard he stood right at the gate, alone in the dark, clucked one hen to another. Braying fit to wake the dead, snorted a pony. Thane, to his credit, was the first to seek Bramble out. The old gelding found him in his usual corner, nibbling half-heartedly at a wisp of hay, trying very hard to look like an animal who had not just saved the farm. "I called you built for turnips and nothing more," Thane said, and there was no laughter in his voice now. "I was wrong. It seems even a stone wall can learn something new if the lesson is loud enough." Bramble, who did not quite know what to do with praise, having received so little of it in his short life, only flicked his tattered ears and said, "I only stood where the trouble was likely to come. Anyone could have done it." "Anyone could have," Thane agreed, "but only you did." The pack returns. Bramble's small triumph did not end the wolves' hunger, however, and hunger, as any creature of the wild will tell you, does not give up so easily. The scout returned to its pack in the high country and told them of the farm below, of sheep fat and slow, of fences with gaps, and yes, of one small gray donkey who brayed like the end of the world. The wolves were not fools. They began to watch. They noted the hours when old Corwin slept soundest, the nights when the moon hid behind cloud, the places where the fence sagged low enough for a lean body to slip beneath. And on a night when the snow fell thick and silent, muffling sound and swallowing scent, they came again, not one scout this time, but four, moving low and quiet as smoke. Bramble was at his post at the gate, as he had taken to being every night since the first attack, whether or not anyone else believed the danger still lingered. He caught the wolves' scent late. The snow stole it from the air until they were nearly upon the fence, but he caught it all the same. This time he did not simply bray and hope. He had spent the weeks since the first attack thinking, in his slow and careful donkey way, about what to do if the wolves ever grew bolder. He remembered that wolves, for all their fierce cunning, feared two things above all: fire and the unknown. Beside the gate stood a lantern, left burning low for exactly such a night, hung there at Bramble's own quiet insistence after he had pestered old Corwin's dog to carry the request to the farmhouse in barks and nudges until the old man understood. Bramble threw his weight against the lantern post, again and again, until it swung wild and wide, throwing crazed, leaping shadows across the snow, shadows that looked, in the dark and the storm, like some vast and furious beast thrashing at the gate. And then he brayed again, louder than before, a sound so enormous and strange in the wolves' ears that it did not sound like any prey animal they had ever hunted. It sounded like something to be afraid of. The wolves, who had planned to slip past one small, harmless donkey, found instead a wall of noise and fire shadow and unfamiliar fury, and their nerve broke. They scattered into the storm, and this time they did not come back. Spring. Winter loosened its grip at last, as winter always does, however long the wait feels while you're in the thick of it. The snow melted into the river, the fences were mended proper and strong, and the wolves, having found easier hunting elsewhere in the greening world, did not trouble Millbrook Farm again that year. Bramble did not become a different animal because of that winter. He was still small, still gray, still possessed of ears too large for the rest of him. He still preferred the quiet corner of the barn to the center of attention. But something in the way the other animals looked at him had changed, and something in the way he looked at himself had changed too. "You could have run," old Corwin's dog, a scarred and grizzled sheepdog named Pepper, said to him one warm spring evening as they watched the lambs clover among them, safe and foolish and chasing butterflies again, tumble and play in the new grass. "Nobody would have blamed you. You're no wolf fighter, you're a donkey." "I am a donkey," Bramble agreed. "But I found out something that winter. Bravery was never about being the biggest or the fiercest thing in the field. It was only ever about being the one who stayed when staying was hard and everyone else had run." Pepper considered this with the solemn patience of an old working dog who had seen a few winters himself. "That's a fine thing to have found out," he said at last. "Not every animal does." And so it was that Bramble the donkey, once mocked for his short legs and his oversized ears and his supposed fitness for nothing grander than hauling turnips, became known throughout the valley as the brave donkey of Millbrook, not because he had ever grown taller or faster or fiercer, but because on the coldest nights of the hardest winter, when the wolves came down from the mountain, he had simply refused to leave the gate. The end.